Hello, I'm Michelle Hill, and welcome to my channel, Winning Proof Unscripted. And today I just want to come on and talk about the 5 ways you can tell that God is moving you to a new region. I have experienced this multiple times, and I've come away with a few tips along the way, and especially for my upcoming move, which I'm super excited about. So let's just get into the top 5 tips. And I want to begin by saying these aren't this isn't an exhaustive list. This isn't all the ways you can tell. Everybody's individual. And so just keep that in mind. I'm just speaking from my experience and in general, because I made, just to intro, when I was 54 years old, I moved from Southern California to North Carolina. I was caught in 2008 in that financial meltdown debacle, and there were no jobs in Southern California. And I was out of work for 2.5 years. And by the time that 2.5 years was done, I used all of my retirement money, 401k, unemployment to survive during that time. I did look for jobs, but there just were none available, or it would have cost me to get a job. Like when you're looking for a job and you're, Del Taco or Taco Bell, and at the time, they were paying $7-8 an hour. It's not worth your time to, and I've never worked fast food, but those are, like, you saw aged people working the window. And it just was, by the time you exchange your time, it's just not worth it sometimes. Maybe it is for some people, but just for me, it was not. So I made that move. I was on Huntington Beach Pier at the time, and I was doing my morning daily walk, and God stopped me in my tracks and said, "It's time to go. That's it. It's time to go." And I heard those words like I've never heard God's voice before. It was so loud in my spirit. And I was so sure that I walked home. I was about a mile from the beach at that time. And I walked home, immediately started the wheels moving for packing. Now, you may ask, well, how did you know you were going to move to North Carolina? I had been here on vacation, and I went to, Mayberry, Mount Airy, and loved the freeways here. I was used to traffic and graffiti, and you had to plan your life around the traffic. And so I fell in love with these green, lush highways. And so there was no question on where to move. And I figured, since I am, 67 years old, I grew up with Andy Griffith, and I knew that Raleigh was the big city. Ooh. So I wanted to get as close to Raleigh as I could. I landed in Apex, and I've been here 13 years. And I never looked back, never looked back. 2019, I felt the prompting, and also I thought, good for business, I'm going to move to Texas. And I did. All of these moves, I didn't have any money to move, but I felt God was prompting me. And so 2019, and this is all by myself. So I said, in Southern California to here, it was in 2011, the end of March 2011, and 2019 from North Carolina, moved to Texas. I thought it was going to be good because at the time, I was a ghostwriter for pro athletes, and I thought, oh, my Dallas Cowboys are there, the Mavericks, all the teams were there. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a really good business area. Hated Texas, the heat, the I was in an area north of Dallas, Frisco, beautiful city, beautiful, well laid out city, but the people were so snobby and so uppity, and I did not fit in. I come from a beach community. I have a friendly, laid back beach community personality, and I did not fit in. I had, women, when I went to go buy cosmetics at a mall, I had one woman like look me up and down and just kind of like, and I thought I looked cute that day. So that I had some really negative things happen to me in Texas. And a year later, like to the day, and I didn't have any money for that move either, but I had to get back to North Carolina. Southern California was too expensive at that time, and I just missed the lush greenery of North Carolina. A year later, I moved back here on my own, and I moved back to Apex, back to my same apartment complex, and then it priced me out of the rent. The rent prices, they just skyrocketed. I think Google and Apple decided to come to the Triangle, and as soon as they announced that, rents went up exponentially. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. By that time, I was full-time self-employed. And so through church, I connected, I was connected with this real estate couple, and they said, oh, we know someone that has a very well-priced townhouse in the town of Smithfield, North Carolina. Oh, yay. I've been paying probably until the last 2 months, $700 a month for a very large townhouse. You can't beat that. You can't get that rent anywhere. Okay, so I moved from Apex to Smithfield. That was a relatively easy move because it was only an hour away. And now I've been in Smithfield 2.5 years, and it is a depressed North Carolina town, and I hate it. I hate being here, and I don't fit in. I'm a Southern California girl. I do not fit in, and I'm sorry, I call it hillbilly hell. Everywhere you go are hillbillies, and I just don't feel like I fit in. That's okay. It's not that I, have a dislike for people. It's just I have a disdain for this whole town. So I was praying, oh, dear Lord, show me where in the world you want me. Literally, where in the world do you want me? Check Southern California, way too expensive. And the politics are terrible. The state is in a bad situation. And so that, didn't work. I checked other places. I checked the Charlotte area, and I checked a town called Olive Branch, Mississippi, that I was told about, and nothing fit. And so one of my friends suggested a 55 plus community. Now, personally, I'm just telling you, I'm like, I don't want to ever live in a 55 plus community. I don't want to be around all those old people. Granted, I'm 67. So I just felt like that. I'm not knocking it whatsoever. Please know that, just for me. And the Lord seemed to be opening doors for that, like wide open. And the rent was only $795 for a large, a decent sized place. But you know what? I prayed about that, and God closed the door. So more on that on the second point here, the second way. But I just wanted you to know a little bit about my history, to know I know a little something about what God is doing and how he prompts you to move, whether you have to move or whether you are just feel prompted to move. So it comes from my heart and it comes from a lot of experience. And so let's dive in to the 5 steps, because I am in the midst of course, another move. So I am moving to Wilmington, North Carolina, because I miss being by the beach and I miss the beach vibe and all that. So that's enough of that. Let's get into the 5 steps now. The first step, the first way, I guess, these are not steps. The first way to know if God is moving you to a new region is that you start feeling a dissatisfaction with where you are. It could even be like me, feeling a disdain for the city or the town you live in. And I honestly admit, when I go out in my car, and this has been for a while now, it's like my spirit just deadens. Like it's I've never felt that way before. But just look for that. A general dissatisfaction, a restlessness, an unsettled feeling. That is usually the first way to know that, okay, Lord, what are you doing? Way 2 is pay attention to closed doors as much as open doors. Like I shared, I was pretty much, I had a connection into the 55 plus community, and I prayed, Lord, if this seems like an open door, but if you don't want me to live there, close that door. And oh my word, he closed the door. And so watch for the closed doors as much as the open doors, because those are important too, because you don't want to barrel your way through when God is not leading in that direction. The third way is look for confirmation in the word. God will show you, like when I was moving, when I came home from that beach walk in Huntington Beach, when he spoke to me on the pier, first thing I did was come home, open the Bible and say, Lord, show me in your word. And it's so, and I'll say the word funny, because he did. Genesis 12:1, when he was speaking, God was speaking to Abraham and told him to get out of your country, your kindred, and it says your father's house. And the interesting thing about that is that I was living in a condo that my father owned. So that especially spoke to me. It's not going to be the same for everybody. God has his word meant for you. And so just look in his word, ask for specific confirmation, because he will show it to you. And I'm not talking playing Bible roulette, where you open the word and you just stick your finger, because that is more like roulette and you never know what you're going to come up with. So just seek God. And it might not be just the second after you feel like a prompting to move. Just spend some time in the word, which you should be doing regularly anyway. Just look and seek and ask him for a confirmation scripture. And so that's a really important part. The fourth way is that, God's prompting and his voice trumps all others. Our feelings betray us every single time. We could feel one day, oh, I want to move to Hawaii. I feel like I just want to be part of that Hawaii scene. The next day, no, I feel like I want to move to Alaska. I feel like I would really enjoy 60 below weather. Whatever it is, just our feelings betray us. So what's important for this is that you really need to be in regular fellowship with the Lord to hear his voice and hear his prompting. But listen for that, because he says, he speaks to us in the still small voice. His voice isn't in the whirlwind. It isn't in a bunch of drama. That still small voice can be very loud when it's him. And you need to discern whether it's him or whether it's the enemy trying to derail you, because he has come to rob, kill, and destroy, and you don't want to go down that path. And so make sure you're in the word regularly and seeking God and listening for his prompting. The fifth way is God will give you a longing and a prompting for that new place. He will give you a love before you've even been there. Maybe it's a place you've never been. I've never moved to Wilmington before. You know, I've been to Wilmington, and that's all I know about it. But God has done the work in my heart where I have a longing and I'm excited. And I've had people actually speak over me over this move and just say, God is bringing you into a season of favor and blessing. And he has given me favor with people like that are just coming alongside. And one person said, here's $900 for your moving truck. Who does that? Only someone who's obedient to the Lord. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to you. And it has not happened in my other moves. It just happens to be that's what God is doing in this move. And so just look for that, listen for that, and just pay attention to that longing and that excitement for the new place. And don't be afraid to make contacts before. I've made contacts already with a mastermind group, with a growth accelerator group in Wilmington. And I talked to the gal that's the head of it, and she said, oh, our groups are like church small groups because there's so many believers. Only God can do that. You know, I'm excited. I have churches scoped out. It's okay to go ahead and survey the land and see if your heart grows more excited or if it just like, oh, I don't know. So look for that prompting, and God will give you a love for that. And you know what? Once you're there, he will expand your gifts and he will expand your sphere of connections and everything, because that has happened to me in my different moves. So that's all I want to share today. I hope somehow this has been helpful for you. If you want to leave a comment, I would love for you to, and to share your own ways that God has spoken to you and that he has led you to a new place, a new region. And until then, I'm so glad you listened to this, and I will be excited to hear what you have to say.